Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan Elrom.
And I'm Erin Feiner.
World leaders joined the State of Israel in mourning the passing of former President Shimon Peres, who died at the age of 93 this past week. The veteran politician had been in critical condition since experiencing a stroke several weeks ago. Peres was the 9th president of the Jewish state from 2007 to 2014. He also served twice as prime minister and 2 stints as interim prime minister. And he also was a minister in 12 cabinets. His political career spanned more than 66 years. The 1994 Nobel Peace Laureate never relinquished his dream of peace in the Middle East and leaves the Paris Center for Peace to continue his legacy. In other news, the United Nations has yet again provided a welcome forum for anti-Semitic hatred. Palestinian Authority Chairman Mahmoud Abbas used his recent address to the UN General Assembly to incite further violence against Israel. He repeated the rallying cry for Arab attacks against Jews by falsely accusing the government of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of trying to alter the status quo on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. Israel has strongly and repeatedly denied the inflammatory charge, which has been used as an excuse to wage terror against the Israeli public this past year. In stark contrast to the Palestinian leader, Netanyahu used his time addressing the UN to again invite Abbas to Jerusalem to negotiate. He even offered to meet the terror chief on his own turf in Ramallah. Netanyahu also took the historic step of inviting Abbas to address the Israeli public from the Knesset. That offer was quickly rebuffed by the PA boss, who rejected any notion of holding direct negotiations with Israel. Abbas demanded that an international conference mediated by third parties be held before the end of the year.
While in America, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu met with both of the candidates of the upcoming presidential elections. Donald Trump vowed that if elected, his administration would recognize Jerusalem as the undivided capital of the State of Israel. The GOP candidate agreed with the premier that the Israeli people want a just and lasting peace with their neighbors, but said that can only come when the Palestinians renounce hatred and violence and accept Israel as a Jewish state. While recognizing Israel as a vital U.S. partner in the global war against Islamist terrorism, Trump said the Jewish state and its citizens have suffered far too long on the front lines against such extremists. Trump just endorsed the recently revised Republican platform, which dropped all mention of a Palestinian state and calls for America to stand closer to its strongest ally, Israel. One of his closest advisors, Rudy Giuliani, spoke out for Israel last week, saying that there is no moral equivalency between Israel and the Palestinians, and they therefore should not be treated in the same manner. The former mayor of New York went on to say that the two-state solution is a mistake and that it's not in Israel's interest to have a terrorist state created on its border, nor is it in America's interest to create a new haven for terrorists.
Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton also met with the Israeli prime minister. Her tone towards Israel was very different from Donald Trump's and left American expats living in the Jewish state, as well as Israeli citizens, somewhat concerned. The former Secretary of State voiced her continued support for the disastrous nuclear deal, which she helped negotiate with Iran on behalf of the Obama administration. She also stressed her support for the establishment of a Palestinian state, which she hoped would be created through direct negotiations between Israel and the Palestinians, and not through an outside organization like the UN Security Council. Benjamin Netanyahu thanked both candidates for their friendship and continued support of his nation. He made it clear that he's not backing either candidate, adding that he looks forward to working with whomever is elected by the American people.
Here at home, 45 police officers and 6 civilians were honored with medals and citations for demonstrating extraordinary bravery in the latest wave of Arab terror. During the ceremony, Minister of Public Security Gilad Erdan noted that the first instinct in such situations is usually to run and save oneself, but not here in Israel. He said that we are all given strength when we hear how the nation's police and civilians risk their own lives to save others they don't even know from terrorists. The Medal of Distinguished Service was posthumously awarded to border policewoman Hadar Cohen, who was killed this past February. She'd succeeded in neutralizing 2 terrorists when a third shot and killed her. Ifat Ben-Ari accepted the Civil Courage Medal on behalf of her late husband Ofer, who died last year while trying to help wounded people. Rabbi Nehemiah Levi was also honored. He was stabbed to death last October after leaving the safety of his home to save a woman under attack. All of those incidents occurred in Jerusalem's Old City. The rabbi's brother Amichai said that the medal doesn't only belong to Nehemiah, but to all the people of Israel who stand together firmly against the enemy.
Turning to sports now, and we all know that baseball is America's favorite pastime, but Israelis are also learning how to swing a big bat. The blue and white triumphed at the World Baseball Classic qualifying tournament in Brooklyn, New York, by pounding Great Britain 9-1. 3 team members hit the ball over the wall during the first home runs of the tournament, while 5 pitchers combined on a 4-hitter. Israel has now earned its first bid at the World Baseball Classic, which is an international tournament that's held every 4 years. The Israeli team will have a chance to rest up a bit before resuming training, though. The tourney does not kick off until the 7th of March, 2017 in South Korea.
And now to the spectacular technological feat performed by Israeli and American scholars that shows that the text of the Hebrew Bible has remained unaltered for 2,000 years. First, a preservation lab in Jerusalem was able to scan an ancient parchment with X-ray-based microcomputed tomography. The document wasn't able to be read since its 1970 discovery because it had been badly burned and was too fragile to unfold. It was an historic find because it wasn't unearthed in a cave like the Dead Sea Scrolls, but instead came from the Holy Ark of an ancient synagogue in Ein Gedi, where it was once stored for prayers. A researcher from the University of Kentucky used digital technology funded by Google and the U.S. National Science Foundation to virtually unwrap the scroll. The deciphered passage came from the book of Leviticus, and it's just about word for word the very same text in the Hebrew Bible that's still read by worshipers today.
The Jewish High Holy Days begin this evening at sundown when Jews around the world celebrate Rosh Hashanah, the start of the new year 5777. The occasion is the beginning of the period known as the Days of Awe, commencing on the first day of the month of Tishrei, according to the Hebrew calendar. The central theme of the 2-day holiday is the acceptance of God as King. It commemorates the anniversary of the creation of Adam and Eve and their first actions toward the realization of humanity's role in God's world. Customary traditions include the sounding of the shofar, or ram's horn, 100 times, as well as the consumption of symbolic foods such as apples dipped in honey to evoke a sweet new year. We here at Israel Now News wish you and all of our viewers a wonderful year of health, happiness, and peace. Shana Tova.
That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host Josh Reinstein, and we're here on a beautiful sunny day on our rooftop studio in Jerusalem. My guest today is Abe Katzman. He's counsel for Republicans abroad in Israel. Abe, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Tell our viewers a little about what is Republicans overseas in Israel all about?
Sure. There are about 360,000 U.S. citizens currently living in Israel. We believe about 50 to 60% of those are actually eligible to vote, and we encourage them to vote. We try to get them to vote Republican, and we also think that we have sort of a megaphone, because people in America and around the world tend to be very interested in how Americans living in Israel see things. We've got kind of a front row seat to U.S. foreign policy in action, and as a result, people in America are very interested in knowing what it is that we think.
Well, the big news this summer was the new Republican platform on Israel, recognizing Jewish presence in Judea and Samaria, Jerusalem as the undivided capital of Israel, and even saying we have to approve U.S. law and move the embassy to Jerusalem. How big an effect is that having on the voter base here?
It's hard to say. It's certainly consistent with what most of the Americans living in Israel believe themselves. And it's definitely a big plus. You combine that with what happened on the Democrat side. Unfortunately, there was a battle over language in their platform, which actually was whether to call upon to refer to the Jewish presence in Judea and Samaria as being illegal or occupation or illegal settlement. Anyway, that language was defeated, but just barely. And it's very encouraging, though, that on the other side, on the Republican side, they ended up making probably the most pro-Israel platform ever. And besides the things that you mentioned, which are huge in terms of recognition of Israeli rights, Jewish rights, Israeli sovereignty, the other thing is that they are not trying to impose any particular solution on the Middle East. They want Israel, the Palestinians, whoever else is involved, to deal with these issues themselves, come to their own solutions. The U.S. has said that they will back Israel. In fact, in the platform, it even says support for Israel is support for America. So there are a lot of very good things in there. We think that that shows what has been a pronounced orientation within the Republican Party toward Israel in recent years, and it continues, and we think it's terrific.
You made headlines last month by opening up actually centers to register voters in Judea and Samaria. President Obama sees Judea and Samaria as occupied territory. How do you think Donald Trump sees Judea and Samaria?
I don't know that he's weighed in on the particular what particular language he wants to use for it, but he certainly seems to be shying away from at least the legal concept of occupation. And legally, I mean, look, President Obama can call it what he wants to, but from a legal standpoint, it is not occupation. Occupation is a very technical term, not the least of which is it's kind of hard to occupy land that has been yours for a few thousand years. So in terms of opening up the offices there, look, Americans are allowed to live there, and American citizens living there have the same voting rights as they do if they live in Tel Aviv or Jerusalem or Omaha or Nashville.
You know, it's interesting, in America, about 80% of the Jews there vote Democrat. Yet in Israel, 80% of the American Jews here vote Republican. Why the big divergence?
Well, that's actually very interesting. And there have been dozens of articles written on this subject theorizing as to why. Hard to say, but I will say one thing that strikes me, and that is that the Democrats and Republicans are about evenly split here in Israel between as far as voter registration goes. But when American Jews who might have been voting Democrat in America move to Israel, they start to see things a little bit differently. Foreign policy becomes that much more important an issue for them. Israel policy obviously becomes a very important issue for them, and they start to vote Republican. In 2012, a majority of Democrats in Israel voted Republican, voted for Mitt Romney. And as much as Republicans overseas Israel would love to take credit for that, I think a lot had to do with who was on the ballot on the Democrat side. President Obama, I'm sure he means well, but his policies have not been particularly popular among the American population here in Israel. And so they voted, like I said, 85% went for Romney.
Hey, there are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
Well, I think that it's important, especially for those of you who are American citizens, to vote wherever you are in whatever countries you may be. It matters. Sometimes the votes are the elections are very, very close. I mean, you saw what happened in Florida in 2000, and by comparison, that 500 vote margin, well, in Israel there are about 7,000 votes that come from Florida. So wherever you may be, if you're oriented toward Israel, try to vote the same way the Americans in Israel are voting, and that is to vote Republican.
Thank you, Abe, for being on the show, and thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm Josh Reinstein, wishing you a happy Jewish New Year. Now back to the studio.
Up next, Return to Zion with Karen Hayesod.
Shalom and welcome to the Return to Zion with Keren Hayesod United Israel Appeal. I'm Eliezer Moody Sandberg, World Chairman of Keren Hayesod, the leading official fundraising organization for the state of Israel. After 2,000 years, we found the descendants of the lost tribe of Dan. Please help us welcome our brothers and sisters back home. God bless you from Jerusalem.
He will raise a banner for the nations and gather the exiles of Israel. He will assemble the scattered people of Judah from the four corners of the earth. Isaiah 11:12.
Christians and Jews have been bearing witness to the miraculous fulfillment of biblical prophecy. Since the reestablishment of the State of Israel in 1948, the ingathering of the Jewish people to the Holy Land has unfolded before our very eyes. Do not be afraid, for I am with you. I will bring your children from the east and gather you from the west. I will say to the north, give them up, and to the south, do not hold them back. Bring my sons from afar and my daughters from the ends of the earth. Isaiah 43:5. Today, Karen Hayesod has been tasked with completing one of the greatest examples of the fulfillment of this prophecy, the Aliyah of the Ethiopian Jews, the descendants of the tribe of Dan. On October 29, 2012, we were able to bring 250 new immigrants from Ethiopia to Israel. Karen Hayesod is not only tasked with paying the costs of their flights and accommodations, but also with their absorption into Israeli society. There are still around 2,000 Ethiopian Jews who pray daily to come back to the land of Israel, and we need your help to bring them home. We are reaching out to our Christian brothers and sisters and asking you to join us. In this new century, as in the old, Christians must reach out to the Jewish people and do their part to advance the fulfillment of the prophecy and defend the covenant. Help us bring the children of Israel back to the land of Israel. I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. Genesis 12:3.
2,800 שנה של גלות. איך פערים אדירים בגיאוגרפיה, בציוויליזציה, לא יכולים להחליש את הכמיהה הזו, שהביאה כולנו לישראל, והיום גם אתם בבית. ברוכים הבאים.
בכל פעם שנפרדנו, הייתי אומר לכם שיגיע הרגע וניפגש בארץ ישראל. אחיי ואחיותיי, הרגע הגיע. מעומק ליבי אני מאחל לכם ברוכים הבאים למולדת.
Come join Karen Hayesod in fulfilling biblical prophecy. Let's bless Israel together.
To donate and get information, call us at 1-800-505-1665 or visit our website at www.khisrael.org.
President Abbas, since over the past several years you have refused to meet with me and sit down and negotiate peace, I hope you'll hear this message. First, your advisor, Sultan Abu Enan, recently called to slit the throat of every Israeli. 3 days later, a Palestinian terrorist turned these words into action when he slit the throat of a 13-year-old beautiful girl, Halel Yafa Ariel, as she slept. She was a little innocent girl. She didn't deserve this. I ask that you fire this advisor because advocating genocide is not consistent with peace. Second, your party recently praised a terrorist on Facebook who murdered 24 civilians, innocent Israelis, in cold blood. I ask that you pick up the phone and instruct your party's social media manager to stop praising mass murderers. Impressionable children read these posts. They should be taught harmony, not hate. Such words seriously harm the chances of peace. Third, next week the Palestinian Authority will dedicate a monument to Abu Sukkar. Abu Sukkar murdered 15 people by detonating a refrigerator filled with explosives on a busy Jerusalem street. Rather than dedicate a statue to a mass murderer, I ask that you consider honoring a champion of coexistence. This will help educate future generations to love peace over war, compassion over violence. It will also help convince Israelis that they have a true partner for peace. Fourth, the PLO currently pays a monthly salary to anyone who murders Jews. This money provides direct incentive to commit terror. I ask that you stop paying murderers and instead use this money to found coexistence education. Teach tolerance, not terror. Every Israeli and Palestinian child deserves a life of hope, of tranquility, and opportunity. I will continue to work tirelessly for peace. It's time that you join this effort.
Lift up your eyes and look around. All your children gather and come to you. The biblical prophecy is unfolding right before our very eyes. The people of Israel are returning to the Promised Land after 2,000 years of exile. But millions of Jews are still longing to come home. Anti-Semitism threatens many of the Jews. We must rescue them before the window of opportunity slams shut. Bless Israel by supporting Keren HaYesod United Israel Appeal, the leading official fundraising organization for the State of Israel. Together, we can fulfill the prophecy of the Bible.
Let us bless Israel together.
To donate and get information, call us at 1-800-505-1665 or visit our website at www.khisrael.org.
Please stay tuned for the ICEJ report from the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem.
After the Jews were exiled from the land of Israel and dispersed among the nations, within them there remained a dream that by next year we will be in Jerusalem. And the term used for describing this return to Jerusalem is Aliyah.
In Hebrew tradition, whenever a person becomes closer to God, they make an aliyah. And so when someone comes to Israel and fulfills that dream, that prayer of to next year in Jerusalem, they are going up spiritually. It's not just immigrating, it's not just moving from place to place, it's fulfilling this commandment of next year in Jerusalem, of going up to be closer to where you're meant to be. The Ethiopian Jews have been extremely faithful under duress, under persecution, under harsh living conditions. Beyond that, the people that are living today still in Ethiopia represent a very complex reality. They all have family members living in Israel. So you have horrible circumstances of a brother here and a brother there. Sometimes it can be a mother here and some of her children there, or vice versa. Literally, families are torn apart that need to be made whole again. Aside from that, the conditions that they're living in Ethiopia are difficult as far as nutrition, as far as health. These are people that their faith and their desire to come to Israel uprooted them from their villages. These are not people that are living their daily lives like generations before and praying to one day return to Jerusalem. These are people that already became Abrahams. These are people that left their villages and came to the city of Gondar and congregated together with this dream, with this vision, and are living there almost as refugees in their own country, struggling to survive. And we need to bring them.
My name is Oshra Friedman. I started my journey to Israel when I was 5. I'm doing my PhD at the Haifa University. I'm married, proud to be a mother for 3, and I'm Israeli citizen from Ethiopia, and I'm proud Jewish. Before we left Ethiopia to Israel, my 3 brothers did already Aliyah, immigrated to Israel. So they were already here waiting for us, even though we didn't have any connection with them. And my parents knew that this is the time. They got the sign that they're supposed to leave, and they just packed everything in one night and they walked. And we have been told to be quiet, and we walked with the parents. And lots of families, we were about 30 families, not all of them survived the way. We walked for 3 months. And for me, that experience of Operation Moses, it's a journey that opened doors for me, opportunities that me as a person and a woman and Ethiopian community can be a little bit something else. We can achieve a little bit more, and to learn how to live in a new country. In the eye of a child, I learned lots of things. I have been experienced a lot of things that I never had. That was the first time that I saw a plant, a truck, even a building, and also find out that not all the Jewish are black. That was also a surprise for me. So for me, that operation was a very significant moment that actually started my whole new life in Israel. From the first time that I went to study, I learned how much I don't know and I need more, and I have this hunger to study more and more and more. For me, it was amazing because I thought that now I can do things that maybe I didn't dream about, but I know I'm capable to do.
Make this dream of returning to Jerusalem become a reality for other Ethiopian Jews. Go to icej.org/aliyah to donate today.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El-Rom.
And I'm Erin Viner, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Please join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.